Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I've been on the flex since flex zone. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shady, my bros raw. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Throw shade, that's a no, 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 no. Go high, go low, low, low. Like spinning in a 644. Cash money like 504. Ball like AD24. No sleep, need more, more, more. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I'm a real one, my day ones. Try to speak up, can't say none. Try to dig dirt, there ain't none. I make the money that save up. 10 to 80, my save ones. Take to the top on the base one. New car, race on. Fast lane, pace on. With the booyah, that's a flex. Not human, I ain't from another planet. I'ma teleport my advantage. I'ma wake up, do damage.
Hello and welcome in everyone to CCF. This is your Colorado College Football Podcast. Joining me today, we have Tony Casola, who covers the Buffs. He's a little bit down, I assume, but we'll get some more information from him once we welcome our other friend Rick Baum in here, who is an Air Force guy, so he has to be on top of the world as they have not lost a single game this year. They are perfect. So, guys, how are you doing in general, though? We want to say hello to everyone. How have you been?
I've been great, besides, that stinker that we witnessed on Saturday and Sunday, but we're not going to talk about that Sunday one. But, yeah,
I might say a little something about that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I just have to say that was a crazy game to me for the Denver Broncos. It wasn't something I was expecting. Since we're all Colorado fans of collegiate football, same kind of thing with the Broncos. I think we all have a lot of respect for them, and we've grown up with them. Man, that was a rock bottom kind of moment for me. So it really was a tough weekend in terms of football on Sunday for me. So
yeah,
but
it was embarrassing.
It was.
I didn't think that we could see worse run defense than we saw against Oregon, and the Broncos proved me wrong. So,
how about yourself, Rick? How have you been doing?
Well, I saw what you guys saw. I mean, between the Buffs, who I have a deep affection for, and
right.
The Broncos, who I have a love-hate relationship with, we saw 112 points scored against the defense, and we scored a hearty 26. So it was definitely a bittersweet weekend.
Is that good? Is that good? Is that good? No. Okay. No. Okay.
So it was bittersweet for me. My team is undefeated, but to be honest to you, we really haven't played anybody yet.
Hey, I understand what you're talking about, and I know kind of the pain right now of not having a beer due to CU versus CSU. I look like a baby now. I feel like, I'm going to the game this weekend versus USC, and I'm not going to fit in with the crowd in Boulder. They're just going to think I'm a stranger, honestly. Am I going to stand out, do you think, Tony?
Yeah, you might just a little bit there. Yeah, you got rid of the granola beard, so
maybe I'll have to bring some granola or something just to some flip flops, something to make me fit in back with the Boulder crowd.
What was the shoes? The Doc Martens. You could pack your Doc Martens. That'd make you fit in.
There we go. So why don't we get into things and start with the team that lost and just get it out of the way. So I'm going to transfer us on over to let's start with the Buffs.
Yeah, that was a brutal one. I really expected more out of our offense. I had predicted kind of a shootout mentality, but you could see from the start that our offensive line was overmatched. That has been a sore spot from the beginning of the year, and they basically just got run through. Again, could not generate any type of run offense. Shedeur Sanders was pretty much running for his life almost the entire game, harassed, pushed into bad throws, didn't have time to set his feet. They basically kicked our butts up and down the field. It's one of those things. I think I wrote on Twitter, there was a halftime recap. Everything's worked for Oregon's, nothing's worked for Colorado. That's kind of the game that you saw there. They dominated us from top to finish. It was a rough game to watch for sure.
And kind of speaking to that offensive line, I mean, just again, you could see the physical difference between the two. That's what I noticed, is that it felt like the offensive line of Oregon was kind of towering over some of the CU Buffs. And when you look at their players, they were, pretty tall, a good, 6'5", 6'6", a group of them that were even taller. So, did the power basically overdo CU in this game? Was it the power? And they could, obviously they matched in speed, but that's the issue.
It was definitely the trenches. I mean, you could see if they're averaging almost 10 yards a run, I think it came out to 9.5, somewhere in there. And not only that, but they were getting to the second level. They even pointed it out on the broadcast that the offensive line was not only getting the initial push, but they were getting hats on linebackers. So, if you have your front seven basically hat on hat getting accounted for, I mean, they're going to get yardage. And they just completely dogged CU's run defense and offensive line. The battle of the trenches was completely won by the Ducks.
Do you think it was that perfect storm, Tony, where you had the self-proclaimed Cinderella, and you had Oregon kind of waiting at home, to assert their dominance? And I like what Coach Prime said: "Get me now, because this is the worst we're going to be. You ain't going to be able to talk crap next time. I guarantee it."
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right. That is one of the blue bloods of the Pac-12. It's one of the few teams from the Pac-12 that have made a college football playoff. They made a national type championship game during the playoff format, so they're definitely one of the blue bloods. So, you can't help but see that Oregon was definitely ready to go for Colorado and wanted to show the Buffs what a Pac-12 blue blood looked like. Obviously we were expecting a lot after the first 3 games. CU starting 3-0. I think we just got that reality check that this rebuild is probably going to take a little bit longer than we expected. I was never under the illusion that I thought Colorado was going to be playing for a national title this year. Yeah. Oregon could be, with how good they are. They get the best talent. They have some of the best players, and they have a damn good coach. So they could definitely be competing for things. And I think you're 100% right that they were ready to show Colorado where that next step is.
And it's not like they ran it up even in the second half. I mean, even though they said they were kind of going to kind of stomp it into CU, they really were, taking out their starters. And it just felt like, again, though, for CU, why aren't they trying to run the ball? Why are they using kind of these, short passes to set it up with sometimes Dylan Edwards? We just didn't see it much even this week. It was just pass after pass after pass. What do you think was the reason behind that? Is this just Sean Lewis's offense?
Well, it's actually funny because I think Coach Prime had a pretty good, funny quote in today's press conference for this week. He was asked by Brian Howell, another great Buffaloes reporter. You guys should follow him. He does excellent work. But he was asked, should you guys be committing to the run? And he goes something to the effect of like, well, you can't commit to creating a great meal if you have a bad cook. Something to that effect, where they just don't have the horses right now, it looks like, to commit to that. It's either the horses or the mindset. He's brought up both in consecutive weeks. I had asked him after the CSU game, why aren't you guys, focusing more on the run? He goes, we don't have the mindset for it. So it's really something they have to instill in them. They got to be able to push people around, got to start dominating in the run game. They have to get that through their heads and just have to start committing to it at some point if they're going to do it.
What running back would you suggest kind of gets them through that? They have so many different guys that have different abilities. Is this McCaskill? Once he gets going after he heals from, practices a little bit, gets a little bit in there for from Houston, or is this for Smoke from Kentucky? Who can kind of give that spark for the run game?
I think it's got to be McCaskill. It's got to start and end with him. You know, all of our running backs are. Some of them have some weight behind them, but they're not as tall as Alton. You know, Alton is a big, imposing back. He's got the big back body style. He's 6'1", 215, can get downhill, run a little bit. I think he'd be a great complement to a Dylan Edwards. You know, I think Alton is that guy that's going to be the focal point moving forward, along with Dylan Edwards. And honestly, I think a guy that spells them and has really shown that I don't think he's going to ever break away for 50-yard run. But Anthony Hankerson just gets you yards. He's a tough runner. So I think I would go kind of a rough depth chart of Alton and Dylan as like your 1A with Anthony Hankerson backing him up. That would be my ideal one. But, you know, who knows what the coaches are going to move forward towards.
I like it. Hankerson's kind of if you need 2 or 3, you know. Hey, Tony, could you comment about Coach Prime, his conversation with the players in regards to the now infamous text message?
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about there.
So let me set it up for you. Yesterday, Coach was addressing the players. And he said, hey, I got something I want to share with you. Whips out his phone, and he reads some of the context of a text message. And it said, Coach, I'm playing. No matter what, I will play next week, and I will not take no for an answer. Coach asked the team any idea who this might be. They all answered Travis, of course. And then Coach then announced his reply and says, I love you more than I love this game, and you're better to us if you're healthy. I care about you.
Yeah, it's absolutely the right mindset, and I do know what you're talking about now. Sorry, I needed that refresher. It's been a long day at work. But, you know, I think this is kind of your coach's position where you have a player where you really have to protect him from himself at some point. You know, he is an insanely talented player that is going to be playing on Sundays in a couple of years. You know, that is his future. And, you know, he still has a lot to prove in the college game, but he's proved enough to know that he's going to be playing in the NFL. It's one of those things where you have to get a player healthy. You have to protect him from himself, because that competitive spirit's always going to want them to get back onto the field as soon as possible. You just got to protect them from themselves. I think it's great.
Do you think it was kind of an obvious attempt to say, hey, you guys that have been criticizing me, let me tell you that I am still a player first coach. He even made reference to Travis being better than he was eventually. And I thought that was kind of, you know, a deliberate attempt to say, hey, I'm not just this guy with sunglasses.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a reminder to the entire world that he's a football coach first and foremost. Yes, he does it in a very flashy way, but he's a coach. He's got that old school coaching mentality, and he's gonna protect players when they need protecting, and he's gonna kick a player's ass when they need their ass kicked too. So I think it's great. I love it.
There's a difference between playing hurt and, you know, playing injured. And I think that's the key here. And with Hunter, you can't have him out there. And I think that, again, this is great by the coaching staff to make that assessment, understand they have more time with him. Also, again, just do what's best for these athletes. Again, they still are student athletes.
Well, and I think anytime you're talking internal organs, that's something where you're going to have to most definitely protect a player. You know, he's not going to be out a week and then come back from internal injuries.
Now, let me ask you real quick, Tony, what do you think after this game? How is CU's players, their coaching staff, how are they doing mentally in terms of, hey, let's move on, let's get past this? How are they doing in terms of getting around that? And are they hung up a little bit about this game?
You know, I don't think so. You know, you kind of see the talk from Coach Sanders, even a Deion Sanders Jr. The mentality is, you know, we're not going to change our mentality. We're going to still go out there. We're going to be brash. We're going to be posting all of our practices online and doing the same things we're doing. We're not changing because we get a butt whooping. It happens. Sometimes you get your ass kicked in football, in any sport. So I honestly think their mentality is still pretty good. They're going to still do them. They're going to prepare the same way. They're going to do the same things pregame. They're going to have the sunglasses. I heard Lil Wayne and LeBron and Jay-Z are coming to the USC game. So
yeah,
I don't think much has changed. And that's them. That's the way they got to do them. They got to be themselves. So.
Can you talk us a little bit about the USC game? I understand that USC runs a 4-2-5. Do you think that's going to lead anything open for the running game in terms of, hey, maybe they won't stack the box as much? They'll be focused more on the wide receivers, the skill positions. What are your thoughts on general of the defense? Because that seems to be the weak link for USC.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've had some there are going to be some articles that I'm going to be writing tonight after we get done, but I've done some behind enemy line stuff with a couple of the guys that work for Trojans Wire. Actually, is another one of our sister sites to Buffalo's Wire. And it's strange. I think the USC fans and the people that cover them are a lot more afraid of CU than the betting line would indicate. So, you've seen that, again, another 20-point spread come out, but they're not sold on their defense, and they're definitely not sold on their defensive coordinator. Alex Gritchich has been a guy that's kind of always been on the cusp of being a head coach, but has kind of been held back by his own defenses. I can't remember the last time, when we had the Reggie Bushes, the Matt Leinerts, those national championship contenders, they always had great defensive play. And, you see them giving up 28 points to a definitely undermanned Arizona State squad, at least compared to the skill positions that Colorado has. And again, I think you see potential where you can bet within that point spread and feel pretty comfortable about it. I think CU's offense is going to rebound in a big way this week, and it's mainly due to, like we talked about, the deficiencies that USC has on defense. Now, they have a hell of a pass rush. That's where I get really worried, is because we saw that offensive line get worked over pretty good against Oregon. We have that Georgia State, Jamil Muhammad. He was a transfer from Georgia State. He can get after the quarterback. They have a couple other guys. Solomon? Dang it. Why is it escaping me? Solomon Bird. They got guys that can get after the quarterback. If the offensive line can hold up, and that's a big if, then Colorado can definitely find some space to move the ball against that back seven.
So Sean Lewis has to keep throwing the ball, it sounds like, unfortunately. It doesn't sound like much room to set up the run, but hey, if that's what USC is set up for, that's kind of what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what I would say. And the defensive line has to start preventing the run. You see an offense that's averaging about 7 yards a carry, you get really worried that they're going to have to start run committing, I think, even more. And then you give that much space to a Caleb Williams. That's not going to be a fun night.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Anything else that you can give in terms of insights for USC, though?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game again, guys. Like, we've talked about in the past. I think CU's offense does rebound. I'd go with that plus 21.5 and run with it as much as you can. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring morning in Boulder.
Do you think that starting earlier is going to help the Buffs in a sense with this game, because it's an early game? I think is it 10 a.m. Mountain Time?
It is 10 a.m. So it's 9 a.m. California time. So
yeah. So do you think that's going to help them in the sense that they don't have to live to this big build-up of, hey, there's concerts, there's everything going on outside? They can kind of take this a little bit more calmly, and then they can go into the game a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I definitely think there was a little bit of effect of having, game day and everyone when CSU came, and then having to wait the entire game to actually kick off. I hope so. I think the altitude is going to play a factor for those guys from California, but again, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a fun game to watch.
All right, very nice. That's all the time we have, unfortunately, for CU. Excuse me. Why don't we transition to another team who's dominating? How about we transition to Air Force? You okay with that, Rick?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm excited to.
Let's do it then.
We're going to go in uncharted territory here in a little bit.
So let's get. Boom. We're ready to go. So tell us what happened in this game for Air Force this last weekend. They really kind of took it into their hands and just kind of win at San Jose State. So why don't you just recap a little bit about it?
All right. Well, we had another Friday night contest.
I like these. I really enjoy having these at night because then you watch the game, you have a great time. Again, Air Force gives you a great brand of football. It goes very quickly because they're running the game, they're running the ball, and then all of a sudden you get to go to bed and you get to wake up and have another, a different Colorado's team. So I really love the timing.
Yeah, I'd take that Friday slot every day if they gave it to us. So,
and you were in San Jose, right?
Of course, bud.
So tell me a little bit about San Jose, how it was when you got there. Was the flight at least okay? Tell us more. Open up to us.
It was beautiful. So yeah. I worked all night. Thursday night, took the flight out. I was semi unconscious.
Crazy man.
Did my thing. We had a giant tailgate right next to the Shark Tank where the San Jose Sharks play. And, to be honest with you, there was a lot of apprehension in the air. A lot.
Now, explain why. Because, you come into that game, they've only won one game, if I'm correct, San Jose. So what was the apprehension?
So I started getting text messages on Thursday from some of the guys that I mentor. And a couple of them were under the weather to the point they were unable to travel. Now, typically, you look at depth and you go, okay, next man up. And we always do that. In one particular case, our 3-year starter as field goal kicker, who's yet to miss this season, was one of those affected. And his backup was a sophomore who had never seen any action besides kickoffs. So that started it.
So were you having some flashbacks to Wyoming of last year when you started to have illnesses and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, there was a big fear that we'd have a repeat performance. I even questioned, so for that game, we were out without our kicker. We were without our leading rusher, Owen Burke. He had been in concussion protocol previously. He did test.
Nice if you could have told that to the guys on TV because they had no idea. They kept going through it and going, we haven't seen him. He's on the sideline. He's in uniform. I don't know why he's not in. And so I was just saying to myself, well, if they don't know, well, obviously I don't know either. So you're telling us it makes sense. There was a concussion protocol going on.
It does and it doesn't. So
go on then.
Owen tested fine before the game, but coach's decision, kind of like we talked about Coach Prime, they made a decision. Hey, let's give you another week. I'm sure we'll see him this weekend heading into a bye week.
And who kind of benefited from that? Those missing snaps is just my question to you, real quick.
E-Man, Emmanuel Michel with 140 plus yards rushing up the middle. His backup, who's actually the third string, Dylan Carson, did well. And there was even a Jet sighting. Jed Harris scored the final touchdown. So that was one of the people who benefited from that scenario. And then on the other side of the ball, Dallas product, Reagan Tubbs, he went in there, shook off the cobwebs maybe, converted on all his attempts, one field goal and several, I think 5 extra point attempts. No, make that 6. Yeah. And he
42.
got a personal foul.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Did you speak to him about that? Because I didn't know if his hand, he meant to, or if he was kind of just going and, his momentum went with
He meant to.
He meant to. Okay, we're going there. He meant to then. That was honestly, I had a good chuckle. Honestly, I couldn't help it. Because he makes a good block, and then just the guy gets up and just gets that smack on the head. Come on, I mean, you couldn't help but laugh in some way, Rick. But what did you see, kind of as you were in a different setting versus us watching on TV?
Yeah, Reagan said that player had kind of been heckling him a little bit, and kind of knew the situation, I believe, and tried to get into his head, and he did what most players will do. Of course, he didn't want to do anything to hurt his team. I think what he really ended up doing was making a stand.
Yeah, I think that in many ways that was saying, hey, look, again, I think every player that sees a kicker lay it on the line, make a big hit, those kind of things, I think it pumps up the team, especially to see, if it was a guy that was heckling. I think that's, again, speaking to the mentality of some of these teams by being able to do that. And I think Air Force has a good mentality in terms of, hey, we understand you put us in a bad situation, but we got your back in some sense, and let's go out there and beat them.
Yeah, definitely. So, if I was going to recognize some specific people and or position groups in this 45-20 win, I would say offensively, E-Man and John Lee Eldridge III. We'll talk in a second about this amazing run he had in the fourth quarter. Yes. Also, the Bolt Diesel offensive line. These guys leading the nation in rushing yet again. It seems like a broken record over there. But from Thor Paglialong in the middle, Ethan Jackman on one side, Wesley Nindago on the other, and then we've got these amazing tackles, Adam Karras, Mason Carlin, and Caleb Holcomb. These guys are moving the line. And we go too tight. We got Caleb Rios, James Bryant, and they don't quit blocking until the whistle.
That's awesome. Can you kind of speak to the team's resolve? Because, you talked about that mindset of, seeing some illness, seeing some injuries. And then all of a sudden, San Diego comes out and goes up 20-10, in that first quarter. And there's not a lot of time left. And, the Air Force offense, while as dominant as they are, they don't move fast. And they were able to go in quickly and punch that last first half touchdown in. Speak to how they got that going after going down 10 points kind of early to San Jose State.
Well, this is one of those games, if you win, it's a confidence builder in the respect, down double digits on the road in a hostile environment against somebody that'll probably be playing quarterback in the NFL in some capacity, Chevin Cordero. And what I heard specifically during the game and after the game was after it became 20-10, coach and the staff, I don't know if you noticed on the sidelines, the offense got together, the defense got together, and the message was, we're going to score a touchdown before halftime. We are going to get the ball first in the second half and score another touchdown, and then we're going to take this team out. And, you would hope that happens, but to see it happening was really awesome.
Yeah, this was an amazing game, and I kind of want to talk about an impressive run that happened that really kind of it should have blown up so much bigger, but it got a little bit of airtime on ESPN. I think it's just one of those things, again, because Saturday starts, football starts so early, people couldn't catch it for some reason in time. Talk about this amazing play, because it really was special.
Yeah, John Lee Eldridge III is one of the cadets I'm close to. Led the nation in yards per carry average last year. This year has seen his carries nearly evaporate. So John knew and communicated that whatever opportunities he got Friday night, he would have to make the most of. And as you mentioned, he absolutely did. 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards, 10 carries, and then that big run. And it could not have come at a better time. 4th and 3. We're semi-midfield, 41-yard line, 39-yard line, I believe. And we go for it on 4th down, which we do 83% of the time. And he is stopped behind the line of scrimmage. And then he goes into his workout routine that I have witnessed and even participated in as far as throwing things at him. One spin, 2 more yards. One leap, 10 more yards. And then he gets in the scrum, right? He gets in the scrum, gets in the middle of this group of players, and E-Man, Dane Kinneman, the Diesels, everybody just kind of keeps pushing forward. And Petros Podenko, he says, I'm usually not a man of many words, but this excites me. So that probably sums it up.
There was so much going on that play in terms of when he did the hurdle. I mean, the balance at the same time, because he hurdled a player and then he gets hit on the left side and has the balance to stay not only going on his feet, doesn't go out of bounds. He has to kind of walk that line. And I was worried he got out of bounds for a second there too. But he was on that tightrope. And then he, like you said, that scrum where you're just kind of doing that rugby push. Oh, that was such a good play. That was something that is very special. I think it's the run of the year. And again, you like you said, 10 carries, over 100 yards, averaging over 10 yards a carry. That's huge.
You can just go down the checklist of everything in a running back's arsenal on that play. You got the spin move out of a tackle. You got the hurdle. You got the stiff arm. You got the scrum push. It was incredible to watch. It was so much fun to see. And I shared a few, I saw it kind of blow up because I followed, these different little Twitter accounts. But yeah, just all of a sudden there it was everywhere on my feed. It was really cool to see.
See, you have a better feed than I do then, because my feed was not treating me well to these highlights. I just wanted to see more of it. There, like you said, there was different angles, Rick, and some of the angles, like I loved the angle where I saw it from the back. It just looked super cool to me. But again, there's different angles out there. So go make sure and watch this play. Just go out there on Twitter, like Tony was saying. Go find it.
Yeah, we posted it, right, Tony?
Yes. Oh yes. It's on our page. So go ahead to our page, and I'd appreciate if you follow as well. Ask us questions. Get involved.
Yep.
And in typical JLE3 fashion, no credit to himself. He credits his Lord and Savior, and also his teammates for that run. And man, it was special. And it wasn't just special in the fact that we're college football fans. It was special in the fact is that game, he went over the 1,000-yard career mark. In that game, he became the all-time leader yards per carry average at 8.1 in the 67-year history of the Air Force Academy. And also Emmanuel Michel joined him at the over 1,000 yards for his career. So they are the 61st and 62nd players in Air Force history to have over 1,000 career yards.
I mean, that's awesome to happen in the same game and I know these guys have such a great bond that they were probably both celebrating, each other instead of themselves, and then the other people that helped them accomplish it. So that's huge.
So Rick, you mentioned that you don't really think that Air Force has played anyone yet. Are we going to see a game against San Diego State, the Aztecs, or is this another Air Force blowout here?
So here's what's on the line. 9-game winning streak going into this game. When I say we haven't played anybody, that's just a statistical fact, right? I think we've had some good competition. I think San Jose State's still going to win 6 games. They've got some talent on that team. I think Utah State's probably in a rebuilding year. And we saw Sam Houston's defense. So this will be our biggest test, which is right in line with the bye week and Wyoming to follow. And San Diego State has won our number. They've beat us 9 of the last 10 times. So this is huge. We won at Snapdragon last year, which was cool. And, we got to keep it rolling.
Yep. And, it's really one of those teams that has really been consistently good when you look at the Mountain West landscape, a team that really builds up a really good defense most years. Do they have that good defense again this year, or have they fallen off a little bit?
Yeah, they sent a lot of guys to the league last year. This team, at one point, Rocky Long was their coach / defensive coordinator. He's, of course, with New Mexico now. Brady Hoke is a great coach. But if you've watched any of their film, and I've watched all of it this year, and they are giving up the run. And that's what we do best. So I'm hoping that they keep that theme.
You heard it here, fans. Bet the minus 10.5 on Air Force.
I mean, especially when you throw the ball 2 times in a game, and it was effective. Actually, it got them a first down when they were in a tight situation. But yeah, I mean, if running is what they're weak at, this is perfect for Air Force, and I have a lot of faith in them. We'll get to our picks a little bit later, but anything else that we should be watching going into this Air Force game versus San Diego State?
Well, there's a couple guys, and one of them you probably never heard of.
I don't know a lot of people. It seems like you have your eye on everyone.
So we got a cadet. His name is Pat Dalen. Pat is just a special teamer, but I'll tell you what. If you look at the stat sheet, there isn't a game that goes by that he doesn't make an impact on special teams. Utah State came out a couple weeks ago from halftime, onside kick. Pat got it. Pat, 2 tackles in that game, a couple tackles this last weekend.
Yeah, 2. Yeah. He's number 12, right?
Oh, lunch pail. Lunch pail guy. And then, of course, friend of the program, Trey Taylor. Trey had an interception at San Jose State. He had an interception last time we played San Diego State. So I'm thinking that the team is more healthy this week. I think they're very focused and they're happy. And what I mean by happy isn't a football deal. So our seniors that graduated 24, they all got their job titles this past week.
I saw I saw a lot of Air Force pilots get their title for the first time and them just having an amazing time. So I didn't know if that was just for the pilots. So tell me a little bit more about this tradition and what goes on.
Well, we got guys. I got a couple guys, Jensen Jones, Jalen Johnson, who got contracts, which sounds very smart. I got a guy that got finance. I got John Lee Eldridge got logistics. Trey, who graduates in December, he got acquisitions. And Bo Richter got accounting. I mean, these are smart kids.
Yeah. I mean, these are going to be your future C-class kind of leaders, your corporate leaders and your leaders in many other kind of ways. So that's really important, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for these kids, and
as on a personal level, yeah.
And so here's something, and I usually don't give shout outs, but we talked about it before the game. The illustrious Troy Calhoun turns 57 today. Happy birthday, Coach.
Happy birthday, Coach.
Happy birthday, Coach.
Happy birthday. I know this will get to him because a couple of his family members have commented about our product that we're putting out. So looking forward to wishing Coach happy birthday in person, though belated. And, I'm just excited for Saturday. But what I'm more excited about is doing something we've never done on this program. Tony, we have never discussed a Colorado State win.
You are right. It is finally time to do that. Let us go celebrate. I am so excited that the Colorado State Rams finally won a game. They've been kind of through a little bit of the ringer, facing a tough team in CU, obviously. They kind of gave up their first game. I felt like they could have been a little bit more competitive in. But besides that, this was their chance to get going, and they really played well against Middle Tennessee. It was a hard game to watch in the sense that, and I know, Tony, we kind of spoke about this before, so you can help me inform all the people that were, CSU fans, that we were confused on why the game was so hard to watch. The camera angles were not there. There was stuff that was just missed. Some amazing plays that we heard were one-handed grabs for touchdowns that we just couldn't see. So can you explain just a little bit quickly to the fans there that, our CSU guys that didn't know what was going on?
Yeah, I can't remember where the article came out, and we were kind of discussing it before we actually came on the recording here, but ESPN subcontracts out their camera operators. So they're not actually employees of ESPN, at least what I remember. And a lot of the big networks do this. So your ESPNs, your Fox College Sports, they don't actually employ all of those people. They sell to different companies in the location that they're broadcasting from. So that was, I guess, the best that they could find in Tennessee, because it was rough to watch. Those camera angles were not following the action, and it's you could definitely see a step down in certain situations when they don't get the best subcontractor, maybe don't get the best camera operator that day. But yeah, it was tough to watch because seeing a Colorado State win would have been a lot more fun if you could actually see all of the action.
Yeah, and again, for me, when I saw it, it felt like they were kind of up there. They didn't really have much ability to get those angles. So I feel for them, but it just would have been nice to know for the fans, because the fans were just confused, I saw on Twitter. But besides that, let's move on to the game. Middle Tennessee came out really well at first. They took the lead. They were able to get some things going with the passing game and some things going with their running game as well. But in order to get things going with BFN, as we call him, Braden Fowler Nicolosi, he started slow in the first half. So on a field goal attempt, the Rams attempted to do a fake field goal, and they actually got a touchdown on that play. It was a great play, honestly. You have his name is Giles Pooler. He played a little bit last year. His mom is a professor at CSU, I believe, as well. And what he did is, he's a lefty, so he got the snap, went to his left. He threw a pass that was really, honestly, in tight coverage. But again, being fourth down, you have to kind of take that risk. It went to Holker, who's been, kind of obsessed about a little bit since last week, since what he's been able to do at tight end, been talked about by Jim Nagy for the Senior Bowl. And he caught that ball and got a touchdown. So that kind of evened things up. Things were going very well for Colorado State in that sense early on. And it just kept kind of being one of those games where it was slow in the first half for the Rams, but then they started to get going. And that's when Fowler Nicolosi took over. And essentially he finished the game with 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a pick again, but again, he's more aggressive than, let's say, Clay Millen was. So this was an impressive win from this team. I think that they just showed up a lot. Again, this team needs to work on the running game. Even when it came to even including sacks, this team was if you remove sacks, I think they got under 45 yards rushing. So it was rough in that sense for the running game.
Yeah, you look at the game and just how it played out. I see a lot of similarities there between the Air Force game and the CSU game. You see a 7-point deficit. Obviously Air Force was able to punch it in right at the end of the half. CSU didn't do that, but they come out scoring like gangbusters in the third quarter.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, at the blink of an eye, it goes from a 17-10 game to a 31-17 game, including like just an absolute gift of a touchdown on that broken gadget play, reverse, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know what was going on there. And again, we're talking about Mohamed Kamara just showing up week after week. I mean, he had a sack this game. I think he's leading the nation in terms of sacks per game at 1.6 sacks per game as his average. As well as, he got that defensive touchdown, which was so huge in turning the momentum, making this team feel confident. Again, being able to get after the quarterback, even when he doesn't get a sack, he's causing pressures. So these are the real amazing things that are going on. And again, you have a weapon in Torrey Horton, who I still strongly believe should be a first-round pick. I probably won't shut up about this until it happens. He caught a one-handed touchdown pass. It was on a tightrope. It was the only person that could catch it was Horton. He made the catch. We couldn't see it. I was so frustrated with that because it was an amazing catch. You could tell, but it was just way too off the screen where you just couldn't get it. So that's one reason why I asked what was going on with the team in that sense. But CSU, you got to feel for them. Matt Mummy, he did a great game call. Again, I think their offense is doing great. Defensively, I still think that they can do better with their their defensive backs. I feel like they have talent there, but it seems like they're going kind of the more kind of boom hitting mentality versus doing some more tight coverage, getting in their faces in that kind of way. Besides that, though, these guys are doing very good. Nicolosi was a little short term not on fire in the first half, but he turned it on in the second half. And that's why you see his statistics being, I think, again, very, very high, very good completion percentage, stuff like that. So this team really turned it around when it came to the second half, honestly.
John, are you starting to see a little bit of Shaq Barrett when you look at a guy like Kamara? I mean, anyone who's a fan of the Rams and the Broncos definitely remembers Shaq Barrett from winning a Super Bowl here. I mean, I see a lot of similarities. Wonder what you think here. Yeah,
the similarities are there in terms of body type and how they get to the quarterback. It's tenacity. At the same time, they have their power. They convert into, their acceleration. They convert to torque very well. I mean, they just are able to get to the quarterbacks in different ways by just being consistently, driving their legs, being hard. I just love seeing what he's able to do. And again, I do think that Shaq Barrett is a good comp kind of player. Especially, being from CSU. So it's very exciting what they're doing in terms of, I think they're starting to find their identity. They understand, hey, we had trouble early on. We made a quarterback switch. We kind of ran into some troubles, but I think that this team is starting to develop. They're getting their pipeline coming in next year with a full class again. I think this is going to start being the turnaround for CSU. Again, I'm not sure if I expect a bowl game for them, but it's one of those things where I see it's starting to happen. And since they've been so bad for so long, I think you have to take that as a win. And at this point, I know a lot of people were questioning if Norvell should still be the coach at some point at the end of the year. Let's see what happens now. And maybe he can stay around, because I want to see what he can do with, again, a full class that's been developed with some 4-star players.
Definitely. And to that point, John, after the game, Coach talked about the process. He talked about the improvement, and then he talked about going forward, what they need to do. If they like this feeling, here's what we're going to do next. And when we talked about it before the season started, you had predicted that they would be 0-2 going to Middle Tennessee. They picked up the win. You couldn't script a better next game as far as a confidence builder.
Yeah, they're playing Utah Tech, and this is a team that I need a little bit help describing from you guys, because I did not know much about them, how they came to be. I honestly never heard of them, and when I looked for their logo, honestly, it did not come up. It just came up as this just a plaque, and so I was like, well, who is this team? So who are these guys? Why don't you guys tell me?
Well, anyone who's driven from Denver to Las Vegas through southern Utah will definitely have passed Utah Tech. When you get into the town of St. George, Utah, They used to be right off the highway there, but they were known as Dixie State. So for anyone who's a big Joe Don Duncan fan, that's right.
Joe Don,
former Denver Bronco great, only played with him in preseason. Former Denver Bronco great Joe Don Duncan was the most famous alum that I could recall from Utah Tech now.
Very interesting. Hey, this team is, they lost last week 59 to, I think, 14 to Missouri State. Don't get me wrong. Missouri State is actually a fine team in I think, are they Division III? I get a little confused with that. But they're a fine team. They compete well within their divisions and their conference. But that's not a team that I would be very afraid of if I was CSU. I think it's a team where you have to get yourself right. Let's work on, hey, let's build rapport with each other. This is a get right game. Build some confidence. If they don't take advantage of this, I would be severely disappointed in the coaching staff and the players, to be honest, but more the coaching staff, because I think the staff has to be able to get these guys going. Hey, look, this may not be the big time game that CU was. This isn't going to be the Middle Tennessee kind of game where we're doing some fake kind of plays. Should be a game where you run the ball down their mouths. This is where you get the ball starting to run. If, in my opinion, start running the ball now. This is your chance to start getting some chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games where if you look at it, I mean, they don't even give a spread. So, they can't come up with enough points to give to Utah Tech, even in Vegas. So this is one of those get-right games. Colorado State will definitely be 2-2 after this weekend.
I agree.
And hopefully, again, we always talk about it in reference to the Falcons, but both the Buffs and the Rams need to start running the ball like the Falcons do, and they have the chance to do it against Utah Tech this weekend.
Yes, very much so. So, hey, we've been going over, predictions for each game. We haven't been exactly getting the scores right, but we have gotten every game right, and that's all of us together, and that's just impressive. I mean, that we don't talk about it beforehand. We just go kind of off the cuff and say, hey, look, this is how I'm feeling, and we've been right. So, do you guys want to keep going with that? Yes. All right. So why don't we start? Let's start with CSU since we're on them. CSU versus Utah Tech. Look, I think this is where they score quite a bit. I'm going to give them I was thinking 45, but we just put that up. Let's go 38 to. Let's give it 10. 38 to 10. But CSU leaves points on the table. That's my prediction. What is your thought, Tony?
I'm going to go, just to be absolutely crazy, I'm going to reference the Broncos again. I'm going to go 70-20 and seeing the Rams absolutely take it to Utah Tech today or this weekend.
That would be hilarious. I don't see that coming, but if it does, I'd love it. Rick, what are your thoughts real quick?
49-13.
49-13. Okay, love that. So we all have them getting a lot of points. Let's move on then to, hey, Rick, you guys, let's move on to San Diego State versus the Falcons. What are your thoughts?
I think like I said earlier, I think it's going to be probably our biggest test offensively and defensively. I do believe we keep it rolling. I'm going to go with 31-20, your United States Air Force Falcons.
Tony, up to you now on Air Force.
I was kind of hovering around that same range, but I'm going to say Air Force gets one more stop than you think, Rick, and I'm going to go 31-17.
Got you guys. I think there's going to be some field goals kicked here. I think we should probably expect – I'm thinking a 33 game, 33 to – I think, again, similar kind of set to 10, 33-10. That's what I'm going with. And let's move on over to CU now. Tony, why don't we start with you?
Well, this might be where the train comes off the tracks, but I have written prediction articles since January saying that CU was going to go 3-0. I've written prediction articles since January saying that CU was going to lose to Oregon. And in all those same prediction articles, I said we were going to get the upset over USC. So I see an absolute shootout in which CU wins 49-45.
Wow, what a game that would be. Rick, Can you follow that up, man, for CU?
Wow.
Are we going to differ here? Is there going to be finally someone? Is it someone going to finally?
We're going to differ.
Yeah, I would love that to happen. Until Hunter's healthy and we can find a running game, I'm going to have to, I agree with, probably 38-17 USC.
I like that, actually. I was going to say 38-10 USC. I think they're just going to have things going for them. And the Buffs are, going to be in a situation where they're going to have to pass. And I'm worried about that line. I'm worried about what you were saying. So I got USC.
I could definitely see both of those happening. Like I said,
we're going to have some
be
changes
the one.
Finally.
I'm going to be the one that has the train go off the tracks, but I'll bear that on my shoulders.
Well,
and if CU beats USC,
what do I have to do now?
You boys are going to hear it next week.
I mean, is this? Do we have a gentleman's bet going on here? That I can't shave. I have nothing to grow back here yet. I can't shave it.
We can discuss. Let's discuss.
We'll discuss, and maybe you'll see me missing something next week, and I have to do the show something differently. So we'll see.
My turn to put up. All right.
Oh, what are you going to put up?
If CU wins this game,
mm-hmm.
I will shave every hair off of my body, including eyebrows.
I love that.
Whoa.
Man, I don't know if I can match that. I love that.
Trust me, you need to make sure that this team does not win, because you don't want to see that.
I mean, you'd be getting some different looks, and yeah, I mean that'd be a interesting look for you.
Tony, do you see what's going on here? Me and John are doing these early season opportunities. We're working you towards a bowl to where you're going to risk that magnificent beard.
That's what it needs to come down to.
Yeah, we'll probably be able to get that on the line at some point. Maybe when we start going live, we can start enticing the audience to come up with some bets for us.
Yeah, we're going to go live soon, guys. So just be a little bit patient with us. We're going to find that time. We're going to get this going on the different platforms, so you can see it on Rick's platforms, on Tony's platforms, on mine, so you all can join in and not have to switch where you're at. But we would appreciate if you watch on YouTube, maybe on Facebook, because that way you can write some comments and then we can see them. On Twitter, unfortunately, those comments don't feed in, but you can still watch that way. So we're going to be getting into that very soon, and we'll write a tweet out and let you all know what's going on. So anything else going on, boys, or are we ready to get out of here?
It's going to be another fun weekend of college football. We're in that great time of year where it's just endless football.
Rick, how many games are you going to watch this week?
Well, I've got 3 TVs, so several.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming in, everyone, and watching the CCF podcast or listening to it. And I hope you all have a great week and a great football weekend when it comes. Thank you, and be well.
Go and try your luck. Touch me in again, we let it rain. Keep on start us up. Got that black and white, that yin and yang. Mr. Officer, please don't search us. We don't got a thing. Tell her park it up. Then that be poking out them jeans. Up and sparking up. Like the fireworks, I keep the flame. Heard you parking up. It's the wrong tree, I got the strings. Yeah, I'm charging up. They can keep up, got them looking drained. Now they walking up. Trying to put the face to the name. Pull up and I'm swerving. If a try to